Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Christopher's going to be teaching you a very cool version of My Favorite Things. Now, my favorite thing about this arrangement has to be the chord work. There are so many beautifully voiced chords that you're going to learn, such as this F major 7, but it's also how he connected the melody to these pretty sounding chords. So this piece just has this elegant flow to it. Where you're just moving up and down the neck so gracefully, and it just sounds so cool. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how this lesson is going to work. So in this video, Christopher's going to be teaching you how to play the entire arrangement. But if you do want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for My Favorite Things, and also on that page will be the interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Christopher to teach you how to play this, and then I'll see you at the end of the video.
Hello friends, this is Christopher David Shannon with Rock Class 101, and today I'm going to break down the old tune from The Sound of Music, My Favorite Things. And one of the things that I really enjoy about this piece is that it's a rather simplistic melody that gets reharmonized throughout, or it's the same individual notes, but we're putting different chords behind it that really changes the mood of the song as we move along. It starts out this sort of dark minor sort of tonality and then builds into a much brighter major sort of sound over top of the same melody. So for the intro for this, we're starting out, we're in 3/4, it's a waltz. So we're going to have a slight accent always throughout on beat 1, and we're really going to exemplify this in the introduction by doing a little arpeggio on each of these. Now I'm using my thumb for the vast majority of this piece, just all down strums. It's rhythmically fairly simple. So all I need to do on beat 1 is just move it a little bit slower and then move it fast through on beats 2 and 3. So it sounds a little bit something like this. So we're thinking of 2 and 3 as almost kind of being an afterthought here. So let's try just that basic strum, because that's really going to set us up as a great foundation for the rest of the piece as we work through some of these bit tougher chord voicings. So let's just put down that A minor chord. I want you to play this with your first finger, and we'll see why in a moment. But let's just hang out on this A minor for a moment. 1, 2, 3. Good. You want to take a little bit of time, just get comfortable with that feel, because we're thinking less about what the right hand is doing. We can worry about some of the intricacies of the left hand on here. So for the intro of this, we're just going through a few different voicings for A minor and B minor 7th, walking up and back down, and then finally up to an E 7th chord. So we're going to be starting this A minor we were just playing, and then we're going to play B minor 7th, just barring this first finger that's already here on the 2nd fret, straight across the 2nd fret. So we get... We're going to leave this bar down, and we're going to put our pinky on the 4th fret of our C string, that's an E, and then our middle finger and ring finger on the 3rd fret of the E string and the A string. And this is going to give us a different A minor 7th. All right, so we have this A minor 7th voicing here, and then we come directly back down, just lift up the fingers to that B minor 7th, and then back down to the A minor. So this is just the first 4 bars here. Then we repeat that. And this last time, we're going to go to an E 7th, our big old dominant chord in A minor. And we're going to use an E 7th voicing up here, because our melody starts up here. So we're going to bar across the 4th fret. Remember, we already had this bar down for the A minor 7th, so just slide that bar on up. And then we're going to play the 5th fret of our A string. Now, I'll typically do this with my ring finger. Since my ring finger is already on the A string here, I can just kind of slide that voicing up, move my middle and pinky fingers, and then I have that E 7th. We strum it once, and then we're just going to pluck the E string and the C string. So So let me play these last 4 measures of the intro for you, and then we'll try the first 8 of the entire intro together. It sounds like this. So let's try those first 8 together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, as we get to the A section, we have this melody coming out. We continue that vamp, that going back and forth between the A minor and the B minor 7th, but now we're playing a melody line on top of that. Our first melody note is an open A, but then our second one is the 7th fret E on the A string. So we have a lot of room to move on here. So we're going to be using voicings throughout this that you're probably not familiar with and help you familiarize yourself with the fingerboard a little bit more. So for A minor, we're going to play 5, 4, 5, open. That's our first strum here. And you can see this is just the shape of a G7th chord, moved up and over. And we're going to get that melody note on the 7th fret of our A string, that E, with our pinky. And we're just going to pluck that individually and then strum the chord lightly after that. So we have a chord on beat 1, individual note, and then strum with that note still down. And this will be a consistent pattern that we see throughout the piece. So the first measure sounds like this. So the only movement we have is really putting down that pinky. Let's try just the first measure together. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to stay right here for one moment. We're going down to a B minor 7th, but we're going to leave this ring finger right where it is. We're going to bring the middle finger down 1 fret to the 4th fret and then bar across the 2nd fret. So we end up with 4, 2, 5, 2. And if we look at this on the paper and just the chord chart, it seems as if it's a big leap to that next chord. And we always want to be thinking about the commonalities between these. You know, what we don't have to move, how we can efficiently get to it. And we're going to do this change a couple times throughout the tune. So I want to take 1 second, and we're just going to play dotted half notes. So hold it out for 3 beats apiece and go between these 2 chords. We're going to do this. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, let's try that together just to get used to this chord change, which is likely one you've never done before. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and B minor 7th. 2, 3, A minor 7th, B minor 7th. Focus on keep that ring finger where it needs to be, and back to the A minor 7th. Now our melody goes down here, so our next A minor, we're going to go back to our original voicing, 2, open, 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 but we're not going to strum up to the A string at first because our melody note is this E. And on beat 2, we're going to hit the open A string and then strum through. And remember, this is the same pattern we played over the initial A minor, strumming on beat 1, individual note on beat 2, and then a light strum on beat 3 because it's just an accompaniment. And we're going to go right back to this B minor 7th voicing from here, 4, 2, 5, 2. And we're going to have that same pattern. We're going to have a chord, and then we're going to pluck the E string. That's our melody note, the A, and then strum lightly. So those 2 measures we get. All right, so let's listen to that first line and see how it all sounds when we put it together. Now let's look at the second line. What happens here is that we really repeat the melody, but now we're doing it over an F major 7th chord. So we're taking this dark sort of sound that we just had, and we're brightening it up. So for our F major 7th, we get to start out on my absolute favorite voicing for this chord, which is 5, 5, open, open. It's a really beautiful chord that we don't get to play on many instruments, like this voicing, aside from ukulele. And essentially, we're going to do the same thing we did on the A minor above that. It's the same pattern, just the chord is different. Melody is the same. And then as we slide down, we're going to go to our regular F major chord that we've been playing for years on ukulele. But we're going to use our ring finger just on the first beat. So we're gonna have 2 open, 1, 2 to start out here, and then immediately pull off on beat 2 to that open A string, and then strum again. Again, we have that same pattern of chord, individual note, chord. So same melody, but over different chords. And then we continue the melody, and remember before we had to strum up just to the E string. We're gonna do the same exact thing, but over an F major 7th chord. Hit the A string individually, strum through just as above, and then we repeat the measure that we already did over that F with that added B in there. So we get this F major 7th line that sounds like this. Same melody, different harmony. So let's try those first 8 measures together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now our next little phrase brings us something new, a new melody and new harmony. So we start on a D minor 7th chord straight across the 5th fret. But much like above, we're only going to strum through to the E string, because this A right here on the 5th fret, that's our melody note. And when I'm doing this, I'm tending to rest my thumb on the A string, because I know that there's going to be a melody note coming up on there if I look ahead in the music. That's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to strum through, and then go 7th fret, 5th fret. There's no fancy rhythms going on here. We're pretty much just playing quarter notes in 3 the entire time. So we hear this, and then we're going down to a G7th chord. Much like with that F up above this, we're going to start out on a slightly different voicing. So it'll be open, 2, 1, open, and then on beat 2, we'll close it off by hammering on with our ring finger. Now on beat 3, we reach the pinky around to get the 3rd fret of our E string, and we're going to pluck that. That'll be our melody note. So let's hear this G7th measure. All right, so here's our D minor 7th and G7th together. So when we get to this G7th, we're really just playing a G major chord at the end of the measure, but there's no reason to swap all the fingers around. Just bring that pinky around so we have that melody note. Then we're going to a C major chord, but probably a voicing you're not familiar with. We're going to have open, 4, 3, and again, strumming just through to the E string, resting on the A string, and then we're going to strum that and go 5, 3, coming down just like that. So open, 4, 3, 5, 3, and then we're just going to pluck the note F on the 1st fret of our E string. And we're going to just play some basic quarter note, single note lines in this measure. So we're going to have F, open C, open, and then we're going to hammer on to that D on the 2nd fret of our C string. So let me play from the C major into the F major so we can hear what this sounds like. And now let's put it together from the D minor 7th at the beginning of this bar so we hear this next little phrase. We have all right, and then we're heading on, and now we get some fun here. We do this big build up. So we're starting on a C major chord, and for these first few chords, we're only going to be strumming through to the E string. And again, just always resting on that A string, bringing it on back. So we're going to have C major on beat 1. Beat 2 will be an F diminished 7th chord, but we just need to voice 1, 2, 1. We don't have to worry about the A string because we're not using it. And I like to keep my pinky on the A string here, sort of as an anchor, but it also dampens the tone so that if I accidentally hit that string, it doesn't make a sound. Making life easy by being lazy. And then we're going to slide this up to the same C major voicing we just played, but because of the way we're playing this F diminished 7th chord, it makes sense to use our 2nd and 3rd finger this time as we slide up. So our first measure of this build up goes, and then we go to regular old F major. And we're going to play B minor 7 flat 5. Keep your middle finger and first finger right where they are. Ring finger goes down on the 2nd fret of your C string, and the pinky goes down on the 2nd fret of your A string. So we get, Sounds like a fancy chord, but we're just putting down 2 extra fingers on an F major chord. Then we're going to C diminished 7th. As I said, a lot of chords in this tune. Simple melody, lots of chords. Going with B minor 7 flat 5, C diminished 2, 3, 2, 3. And look at this motion between it. The pinky and ring finger just sliding on up to the 3rd fret. We do have to reposition the 1st and 2nd, but we want to make a nice fluid transition between these chords. Minimizing the motion. So let's listen to just those first 2 measures of this build-up. So we have C, F diminished 7th, C, F, B minor 7, flat 5, C diminished 7th. And then we go up to another B minor 7, flat 5, also called a half diminished 7th chord. You might hear it called that sometime. It's the same exact thing, different way to call it. We're going to bar across the 4th fret. This is very similar to our E7 that we played before. And then play 5, 5, 5. So we have 4, 5, 5, 5. I generally do this actually with a double bar with my 1st and 2nd or my 1st and 3rd fingers, depending what mood I'm in. It doesn't really matter too much. Whatever sounds clean for you. You can also use individual fingers, absolutely. You can always mess around with fingerings and see what works best for you. Just because I wrote it on the chart doesn't mean that it's gospel. We all have different instruments. We all have different hands. So always know that you can play with that and do what's comfortable for you. And in fact, you should be experimenting with different fingerings of chords because you might run across something that really works for you. Just B minor 7 flat 5. We're going to play it and then we're going to go put our pinky down on the 7th fret, just pluck that, and then just lift it up, pluck the A string again. So we get... And then we're just going to lift up the secondary bar here, or if you're using individual fingers, everything but the 1st finger, and pluck our E chord coming down. We'll have G sharp, E, B coming down, our E string, C string, G string. And I like to throw a bit of a retard in here, just slow it down a little bit before we make that repeat back to the top of the A section. So let's hear it from that 2nd B minor 7 flat 5 into the E. You can slow that down, let it ring out. With most of this piece, you can take your time and breathe a little bit. You don't need to really hammer home a very, very solid metronomic tempo. Have some fun with this. So let's listen to this build up and then we'll try this 2nd half of the A section that we can put it all together. So we keep it nice and slow. You don't have to worry about rushing into the entire thing. So let's try the 2nd half of this A section. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're ready to put that whole A section together. Let's give it a shot. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. As I said earlier, there's a lot of repetition in the melody here, and that's exactly what we see as we get to the B section. We have that same melody, but instead of playing an A minor this time, we're going to play an A major 7th. So we're going to have a happy sounding chord instead of a sad sounding chord. That's really all. But this forces us to do some weird voicings because, well, the A major 7th with the E up here is not the most convenient thing in the world. So we're going to play 6-8 open open. Really utilizing the open strings on this. And you want to use your 1st finger and your ring finger for this because to grab the 7th fret melody note, we're going to need our middle finger. So we strum through. The rhythm's the same as we did before. Strum, pluck, strum the chord, and then we're going to come down to that same B minor 7th we were using before. This doesn't change. That's the same thing, but obviously our motion is different getting between them. So It's a lot further to travel. This is, I think, the hardest chord change in the entire piece is this A major 7th to this B minor 7th. Because we're going far and we're swapping around all the fingers. So our melody stays the same. We go back to an A major 7th voicing, but we know we're going down to the E this time. So we have 1-1 open, just strumming to the E. And then back to our B minor 7th. Those bars don't change. So let's look at these first 4 measures of the B section, hear what it sounds like. So we have this. So keep note that that melody's the same. We're just changing the harmony underneath of it. And that's exactly what happens next. Remember, we went to F major 7th before. Now we're going to go to D major 7th, to our 4 chord, which is a funky little change and really changes the sound of it. So our voicing for this is going to be 6, 6, 5, and open, but we're actually going to play the open at first. And we're going to play the 7th fret with our pinky. So this voicing that we're playing, think of this as your D minor 7th chord that you've probably done before. Just slid on up to the 6th fret. So we're going to strum through just the A string as usual. Pluck the A string, strum through this consistent pattern throughout the piece. And then we're going to go to a D 6th chord because our melody note's a B, so we don't want to have a C sharp floating around in here to fight with it. So our D 6th, just straight across the 2nd fret. And then we're going to put down our pinky on beat 2 and pluck the A here. This saves us from making a big transition like this. We can just put the melody note here. If you're on high G uke, you can just pluck the G string for this and it's absolutely fine. You get the same note. But using the pinky, just less movement if we're on low G especially. And then for our final strum, we'll just keep that 5th fret down here. So let's listen to those D major 7th bars. So here. And then we're coming down. Now our first finger's doing a bar right now. We're going to leave it on that 2nd fret, pivot around it, and just put the 2nd finger next to it. So we're going to have that E, so our 2-2 open. Again, just strumming through to the E string. And then the open A string, and then strum through. And then we're going to repeat the D 6th bar that we did previously with that pinky coming down. So let's play this D major 7th voicing. Let's see what it sounds like. And then we'll try these first 8 measures of the B section together. So it sounds a little bit something like this. Not so bad. Let's try the first 8 measures of the B together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. As we look at measure 33, this should look mighty familiar to y'all because this is exactly what we did at the end of the A section. We're reiterating that main theme, brown paper packages tied up with strings. We already did that. It's exactly the same. And then our build-up is just a little bit different this time. All the voicings are the same really till we get to the 2nd B minor 7 flat 5. So we still have our... Up to that, we're identical to what we did in the A section. But we're going to walk up a little bit. So because this is really a big build-up kind of to nothing, which is one of my favorite parts of the tune. So we play our B minor 7 flat 5, and then the melody is going to walk up chromatically. So we have our bar down. We're going to go 6, 7 on the A string. And strum the whole thing. Let's put a big crescendo on this. And then we're going to end on an E7 flat 9. Now this shape we used earlier as a C diminished 7th chord, and that's because it's the same groupings of notes that we see, the same relationship of intervals when we have a dominant 7 flat 9 or a diminished 7th. So we're going to take this E7 flat 9, 7, 8, 7, 7, and we're going to just bring it on down. So we're going to play it on the 7th fret, the 4th fret, and then the 1st fret. So let's play those 2 measures, starting the B minor 7 flat 5 so we can hear this. So we're going to have... And again, much like the end of the A section, feel free to take a little retardando here. You don't have to just barrel into the next section of the tune. You can let this breathe a little bit. And I actually like to take a little bit of a decrescendo here when I'm coming in. Just bring it down. We crescendo. And then we get into the big thunderous finale of the tune. So let's try our B section together. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. As we get into the C section of the tune, we finally have completely new territory here. This, to me, is where the real fun starts in this song. This is what we've been building to. So we come down off this E7 flat 9, and we let it kind of die off. And then we have these hits starting on beat 2. So we're going to start on A minor 7th, 5, 7, 5, 7. I like to use individual fingers for this. You can also do it as a bar, and it sounds just fine. Again, fingerings, however you're comfortable doing it, is really what's important. And what we're going to do here is as we hit on beat 2, I usually strum this with my thumb and then up with my index finger. And then a final down strum when we get to just our regular open position, A minor. So we're going to go down, up, down, down. And in bar 42, we have a half note here. So we're going to let that third iteration of the A minor 7th ring just a little bit longer. So we hear this, and I'm going to count it out so we can hear where we come in. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1. Obviously, this will be much more up-tempo once we get into the full piece. It'll be something like... Right? So we need to just cut off this A when we get to it because we have a rest that's coming up in the next measure, and we want to have that space in between the notes. So we have... And now let's look at those next voicings. Well, we're going to that B minor 7 flat 5 that we already played. 4, 5, 5, 5. We got this one covered. But then we're going to change chords faster. We're not going to stay on the same chord this time. We're going to play that twice, down, up, and then land on our E7th, our 4, 4, 4, 5, the one we played before. And that's going to be our half note this time. Again, we're reiterating that same rhythm going, but we're starting something new. So we hit that, and then our chop, our short note, is going to be an E, but we actually need this G sharp in the melody. The only convenient place for us to really get that on uke is on the 4th fret. So what I do is just play the inner strings, just the E and G sharp. I usually do this with a bar. I mute the A string and the G string by just being very lazy with my bar and pressing down sloppily with the tip of my finger, so that when I hear it, we hear just that G sharp and the E in there. So this is the B minor 7 flat 5. So we get, and again, we want that rest afterwards. So let's listen to this first line of the C section. So you get 1, 2, 3, 1. Good. Now, as we get to the next line, we're playing the same thing rhythmically. We're changing the voicings again. So we're back to A minor 7th. We're going to use that voicing that we used in the introduction. 2, 4, 3, 3. All right, so same rhythm, down, up, down. Hold it for a half note. And we're going to pluck our E string individually. And as you're doing that, we're going to be moving to an F major 7th, because that's where this whole buildup has been going to, is this beautiful floating F major 7th chord. So we get 1, 2, and 3, 4. We're going to strum that F major 7th, and I just put a 4th beat in there with my voice, but it was really beat 1, I promise. It's a waltz all the way through. So F major 7th, we land on it, and really the melody's just ringing out here, but it's uke. We don't get a lot of sustain, so we got to create a little movement in here. So just pluck down the E string, the C string, and then strum again. and we're going to leave that for a half note. Then we have an A right on the end, and that's actually acting as a pickup note to our next measure. So let's listen to this second line of the C section, then we'll try the first two together. So 2, 3, 1. So let's try those first 8 measures of the C section together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So this next little bit, that A was setting us up to go to a just regular old plain vanilla F major chord. And all the melody for this next little bit is on the A string, so rather simple chord voicings. So we have F on beat 1, and then with our up strum, we're going to put down our ring finger to add that B natural, lift it up and strum down again. We're just going right back and forth with this ring finger every time on the B natural. So let's try those two measures together, just the F measures, alternating, down and up, adding this B, lifting it up. That's all we're doing. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to do essentially the same thing, but over top of a D7th chord. Bar across the 2nd fret, add the middle finger. You can use your ring if you really want, doesn't matter too much. On the 3rd fret. Now our moving note is going to be from the C to the D on the 5th fret. And we're going to hold that last one out for a half note again for 2 beats as we get up there. And then we're going to strum it one more time on the last little beat there as a regular old D7th. So let's listen to that D7th part. All right, and now let's put together with the F before that, with that alternating B. 1, 2, 3. And finally, we're going to resolve to a C major 7th chord. This song is in C, and we've played a couple Cs throughout, but they've never really felt like home. And that's one of the reasons I love this piece so much, is that it plays with, well, where are we? Where is the tonic? And just in the last 8 measures do you finally go, oh, here it is. It's just a C major chord. That's all. But our melody has been walking us up. So we're going to be coming up with an odd voice. We have open, open, 7, 7. That's our C major 7. And then we're going to take this, and much like we did above, just move one note. We're going to add that F on the 8th fret, on the up strum, and resolve it right back down on beat 3. And then we're going to F major, and it's going to be 5, open, 5, 8. Now if you're on low G, you can just bar straight across the 5th fret because you're already playing that same C on your G string. But you can also stay with the pedal point, with that lower bass voice just ringing out. Either works. You can experiment with this. And we're going to play a slightly different rhythm for once in this song. We're going to play a quarter, 2 8th notes in a quarter. So down, down, up, down. So we'll have this voicing here. So that's all. And then we're going to add the ring finger to put this B in here. This is our sharp 11 over the F chord. So this is going to be a B natural. So you have this really tense chord for a moment. Same rhythm. And then you're going to leave the ring finger where it is, bring the pinky on down, 1 fret to the 7th fret, and the first finger barred across the 5th, but leaving the G open. That's going to give us a G13 chord. So we're going to hear something like this, starting on the C major 7th. We're just going to have 3 simple down strums on that G13, and then it comes down to C major. Finally, we get that resolution to the tonic. Now I want you to play this with your pinky. So we're going to do that same rhythm, our down, down, up, down. And then we're going to play an F minor 6th. 1, 2, 1, and the pinky's already there on the C. And we're going to just slow down over top of this and let it build to the end. So 3, we're going to move up to a different inversion of the F minor 6th chord. It's going to be 5, 5, 4, 5. So same exact notes, just a different one in the bass is all. And then finally we end on our C major 7th open, open, 7, 7. So let's listen to that last line here, our final resolution, and then we'll try the last little bit of this C section together. So let's try this starting all the way back on that F chord. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that gets us through the whole tune, but there's a lot here and there's a lot to practice. What I recommend you do when you start out this tune is just strum every chord change. Don't worry about any of the melody. The melody in this is the easy part. The left hand is the hard part. If we can do this, then we can begin to pick out the melody, because almost all those melody notes are contained in the chords. There's not a lot of movement, but getting your left hand around where that melody is very important. And if you can get those chord voicings, you'll really have this tune down. I hope you all have enjoyed this lesson in this song.
Alright guys, so this week's ukulele lesson was a ton of fun. This is such a cool sounding arrangement, but really it's a timeless tune. It's got a beautiful melody, but when you couple in the beautiful chord voicings that you all learned, well, it truly creates something magical. So I do hope you guys enjoyed learning this one. I do want to give you a friendly reminder that if you wanted to get the tabs to just print off, keep for your records, that was available at this link, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for My Favorite Things. Now, also on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So again guys, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.